Hello everyone and welcome back to the Benchwarmers Podcast. In this week's episode I'm delighted to be joined by Oldham Athletic goalkeeper Laurie Walker. Laurie, how are you?
Yeah, not too bad, mate. Yourself?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. I just want to start off by saying congratulations because I actually watched the Oldham game on Tuesday night. I think you definitely deserved man of the match performance. You probably kept them from losing that game, to be fair, so I just want to say a quick congratulations for that.
Thanks, mate. I appreciate it. It was definitely a busier game than what I'm used to, but no, I think, to be fair, mate, I can't take good applaudance for it, because we did, up until their goal, we defended like absolute Trojans, and, as a unit, we really did make it difficult for them to get anything out of the game. So, yeah, I can't take sole responsibility for that, but no, I appreciate it, mate. Yeah,
fair enough. So we'll just crack shot with it then. Obviously, you are currently on loan at Oldham from MK Dons. So what I'm going to do is sort of start with MK Dons and then move on to the build-up of your career. Because am I right in thinking that you actually helped coach the academy at MK Dons?
Yeah, so I run a small goalkeeper coaching company called Pro Save GK, and I started all that up when I first fell out of full-time football, and one of my first coaching jobs was with the academy at Milton Keynes. But now, basically, being back at the club, one night a week I do with the academy boys, just helping them develop and really sort of come on as goalkeepers.
So how do you find it then, coaching? Is it something that you'd be interested in going into the future?
Yeah, no, I really enjoy it. It's something that I've done a lot of, being in part-time football. Obviously, you can't just sit on football wages alone. You need to make yourself another stream of income, and obviously think of the bigger picture on what you're going to do after football when you retire, etc. So this was kind of a project of retirement / whilst I was in part-time football, having another job running alongside it. But yeah, it's something that I do really, really enjoy. You get a lot of satisfaction out of it, helping young lads progress and young girls progress in the game of football, and obviously then moving towards their own goals as well.
Yeah. And do you look at the likes of sort of maybe Tim Flowers, who of course played for England? I think he won the Premier League with Blackburn. Do you look at the likes of people like him, who's gone into a National League club? He's been the manager. He's done really well there. Would you say you have any interest in potentially going into management in the future?
I'd never say never. At this moment in time, if I'm being completely honest, it's something that had never really interested me, but I would never say never. I would like to go into a coaching role for sure, because being able to pass my knowledge on to the younger keepers that are coming through in the game, and being able to pass on all my experiences, because it's a tough industry to be in. Yeah. Very unforgiving business to be in. So yeah, I think being able to support and help somebody along that way would be fantastic.
Yeah. So we'll sort of move on to your career then. It started off at MK Dons, of course, before eventually you would come back to them. How did you find it in their academy?
Sorry, say that again. You broke up a little bit.
How did you find it in the MK Dons academy?
Yeah, really, really good, mate. It was very old school, because it was under Martin Allen. And Martin Allen was, obviously, I'm sure many people know Martin Allen. It was very fear factory. He liked to put the fear factor into his players, which got a reaction, which in turn on a Saturday would mean they'd give him absolutely everything on the pitch. It developed me well as a player and a character, because I had to, as a young lad at 16, we had this unpredictable manager. You never knew what he was going to do or how he was going to react, and it added pressure to yourself. But football's a precious sport. It's all about results, and it really did help develop me as a person and a character, also as a player as well. Yeah.
Were there any other players in that academy who've gone on to have really good careers?
Yeah, you got Liam Kelly, who's at Coventry, and he's actually the Coventry City captain, I think, if I think rightly. But just having a think off the top of my head, I think a lot of the lads had good non-league careers. But that's kind of where it drew the line in my actual year group. Obviously, there was a few lads underneath, or the year under me, who done quite well. Obviously, David King, he was quite a regular feature at Dons as well for a little while. But yeah, no, a lot of the lads they didn't just jack it in when they left the club. They sort of all followed on to have career in football as well. So yeah.
Yeah. And I'm going to go off of a limb here, but am I right in thinking that you're probably an MK Dons fan?
Say that again, mate, sorry.
Are you an MK Dons fan?
No, I'm not, mate. I'm not. I'm actually an Arsenal fan.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, I do live in Milton Keynes anyway. So yeah, it was obviously nice to sign for the club where you live. And obviously, you look and you always want them to do well. Obviously, I really want them to do well under the manager Russ. Obviously, we've got a great manager and management team with Dino and Luke as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, obviously, you're always looking at your club where you live and that, and obviously, you do want them to do really, really well and be really successful as well. Which MK have got every setup to be a massive club.
Yeah. And then of course, unfortunately, you were released by them. How difficult did you find it? Did you find it to find a new club then in the form of Cambridge?
It was really tough, to be fair, because you spend 2 years in an academy and you think, yeah, this is it. I'm set now. I know what I'm doing with my life. And then all of a sudden it vanishes. And you sit there and you think, wow, what do I do now? Like, where do I go?
Yeah.
And it takes you back, and again, it's another mental battle straight away because you're sitting there thinking, well, what do I do now? You do have a couple of agents sniffing around, sort of, saying they can help you do this, do that, do this. And the agent I had at the time, I can't remember his name for love nor money, but the agent I had at the time managed to source out the Cambridge move. And yeah, just kind of ended up there. So yeah, it was good. It was tough, but obviously as soon as that club comes available and about to you, it's a massive release.
Yeah. And obviously at Cambridge as well, you made your actual professional sort of debut. How much of a change was it from youth football to sort of adult football? Because I understand as a goalkeeper it might be a bit different.
Yeah, I think the thing you find the most as a young goalkeeper going from under 18 football to adult football is the physicality of it. One thing I'd always say to young lads is, try and get as much experience in adult football as you possibly can, whatever level that is, whether it's non-league level, whether it's, EFL level. For me, it doesn't matter because, the physicality you need to be able to play men's football as a goalkeeper is massive for me, and it really, really developed me as a player, and make you see the game completely differently. But the speed of the ball, the speed of the ball's moved, the delivery on the crosses is just that you can't mirror that in youth team football.
Yeah. And of course, next after Cambridge came Morecambe. They had Barry Roach as goalkeeper at the time. I believe he's still sort of involved with the club, still to this day. But how much did you learn under Barry?
Oh God, countless. Baz is one of the best keepers that I've worked with. His knowledge of the game, his experience, just everything about him on and off the pitch was just, was second to none. He really took me under his wing, really helped me develop. Obviously, I was a young lad moving away from home. I was moving 300 miles away from home, living on my own, not knowing what I'm doing. And he really stepped up and helped. He obviously, I lived with him for the first month of my contract while I sorted out a place to live. But experience-wise, you probably couldn't work with anyone better to be able to help you develop as a goalkeeper as well. And I'm really grateful to have come across him and met him in the footballing world. Obviously, I do still speak to him now. And still, even to this day, I still go to him for some advice as well. So, you never stop learning. Goalkeeping is one thing I'll say. You'll never, ever, ever stop learning.
No, yeah, definitely. And so obviously from Morecambe you moved on to Kettering in the Conference Premier. Your first sort of season at Kettering, they had a lot of financial problems which would eventually lead to them falling down the leagues. How difficult was it to play in a side which obviously you never knew your future was safe because of everything going on behind the scenes?
It was the best, worst season of my life. That sounds really weird, but the fact that was my first full season of playing competitive football, actually being a number one and a starter, I was thrown into the deep end. I think I was 21, if I remember rightly. Hadn't played any men's football at all, really. Played the odd game here and there. I played against Macclesfield from Morecambe in the EFL Trophy, and that was probably the extent of my playing. But into this club. The season starts really well. After the first 2 months, I managed to get an England T call up. So I was thinking, yeah, brilliant. This is fantastic. Like, what a way to go. And then the chairman, God knows what he was doing. Yeah. And a lot of them will never forgive him to this day for the stress and troubles that he put on everybody. Because you're trying to go out on the pitch to perform and to really make a splash as a young player and to try and sort of get back into the EFL, break in. Yeah. And you're now dealing with financial issues, wondering how you're going to pay for your car and how you're going to pay for your phone bill and your rental. And it was a good job that I had very good people around me, my other half, my dad, my mum. It was a good job I had these people around me who were able to step up to the plate and help me. Otherwise, I would have been, God knows where I'd be. I'd be in serious amounts of debt, I can tell you that much. But I just don't understand. The chairman was just so unforgiving. He didn't care. He didn't care the fact that lads had bills to pay. But then on the flip side, I gained a lot of experience from that. I took a lot of experience of being able to having to play under pressure, having to play under the fact of sitting there thinking, right, well, as soon as I get off the pitch, I've got to start dealing with how I'm going to find money again. Yeah. So there was loads of different factors in that year that I had to deal with, but really pushed me on as a player and made me, develop again. And I hate to say it, but you still see it to this day. You'll always see chairmen just not showing any sympathy towards players when they come into this financial kind of situation. So it's tough. It was a really tough year, but at the same time, it was really good on the basis that I developed so much as a player and had to deal with so many different avenues of what was happening. So it was a strange one, but also a really, really good experience.
Yeah, obviously, as well, Kettering have come back up the leagues in recent sort of seasons. They're in the National League North now. So how good are you to see that they've not kind of just fallen away, but instead just started to climb up again?
I'm absolutely made up for it, mate. If there's any set of fans that deserve to have a good rebuild process, it's them. It's not a bad club. It was just under horrendous ownership of somebody who didn't have a clue about football and just, didn't. He didn't care what happened to the club, and you can quite clearly see that. He didn't care, and that these fans that give their life and soul, like the Kettering fans do, they're so passionate. Yeah. They give their life and soul to the club, and they'd do anything for them just to watch their club just get eaten alive and not care. So I'm absolutely made up that they're starting to get back to where they should be, because for me they should be Conference Premier minimum. Yeah. So that's a very minimum that those fans deserve. So to see them come back, the chairman there, Richie, has done a fantastic job of rebuilding the club and obviously getting them into a financial place where they're stable now. And it's just really nice to see it, and it's what those fans deserve as well. Yeah,
and we'll move on to the 2012/13 season, because you were still at Kettering, but you had 3 clubs in this year. So you had Kettering, Brackley and Leamington, but obviously you stayed at Brackley wasn't really too long until you came back later on. You only played 16 as Kettering, so we'll sort of move on to Leamington, where you made 18 appearances, so you were sort of the first teamer in there, and you went on to win the Southern Premier League, for Leamington. So as your first sort of silverware that you won, how great a feeling was that?
You know what, that was massive. That was a great season with a fantastic bunch of lads, and they gave everything for you, that bunch, and that again is another club that is absolutely fantastically run, really well set up, and got ambitions to go in the right direction, but they do live within their means. So to go there and be able to get some silverware there, and like you say, my first bit of silverware, that feeling you can't replicate anywhere. Yeah. And it is the best feeling in the world, because obviously as you get older, you don't tend to win as much in football. So being able to do that and still, pick up a trophy, and it was the feeling, like I say, the feeling you can't replicate that. It was fantastic.
And in the same season as well, unfortunately, Kettering did get relegated once again. They were 20 points off safety, which is just not really good. So how sad were you to see Kettering go down again?
Yeah, It was really tough to watch that and watch them just, fall apart that year. Again, through no fault of their own, but, they were in the middle of a rebuild. So, to be honest, it might have done them a little bit of a favour to actually be able to drop down, fully rebuild to start again. So I suppose you've got to take all the good bits out of them, something bad if you can. But no, it was tough to see them go and take another relegation. But all is rosy now, and they're starting to get back to where they should be, which is nice.
Yeah. And Leamington's ground, it only sort of holds 3,000, but the highest end of the season came when Leamington played St Albans. They got 1,027 people in there. How good of a fan base did Leamington have?
Yeah, fantastic. Again, like I say, they're so passionate about their club. They turn out week in, week out. On a Tuesday night when it's freezing cold, they're rocking up as well. And that, for me, that a good fan base is really sort of that can get you an extra 10 to 15 points a season without a shadow of a doubt. And they were fantastic. They backed you. They supported you. And they were there all the way. And it was just nice to be able to give them something back at the end of the year with a trophy. So
Yeah. And then sort of when you got promoted, then I believe Leamington went to National League North, I think, from there. So how come you left Leamington? Was it just a case of maybe you just wanted to try something new, or did you perhaps just see a better opportunity at Hemel Hempstead?
It was a case of I wanted to stay at Leamington. I can't be too sure what happened. I was told by the manager that he wanted to keep me, but for external reasons he couldn't. So I don't know what happened there in regards to when I was with Brackley at the time. So I don't know what had been said to Leamington by Brackley. So there was a lot of factors there that I still to this day don't really understand what happened. And then obviously I just wanted to carry on playing. And obviously I wasn't really getting a look in at Brackley because obviously John Brady had Billy Turley there, which he's an experienced goalkeeper.
Yeah.
And I was still fairly young in the game, I guess. So I just wanted to continue playing because I've had that feeling, that buzz of playing and doing well and winning. So I just wanted to carry it on, and that opportunity got put to me at Hemel. And obviously again, it was a no-brainer because obviously it was going to be regular football. Yeah,
and at Hemel there, Dean Brennan as manager and Stuart Maynard as assistant manager. They're obviously in the National League now with Wealdstone. Maynard is, I believe. But so, how did Brennan convince you to come to drop down to the league that you just got promoted from?
His passion alone. He actually said to me when he rang me, he's like, "We are going to win the league." He's like, "We will." He goes, "I guarantee you, we will win the league."
Yeah.
He goes, "You'll be part of a team that isn't going to lose very often." And he was like, "We want you." He's like, "You will make a difference to us." And he's like, "You're the final piece of the puzzle we need." And it was just his passion alone that sold it to me. And the chairman as well. The chairman is such a passionate guy about Hemel.
Yeah.
And he just, he was like, "Look, we want to go places, and we are going to go up this year." And that for me, that sold it for me. That was enough for me to go, yeah, actually, I want to be a part of this. I want to be part of a winning side. Coming up from Leamington being a winning side, I wanted to continue that. So yeah, both their passion alone was enough to sell that to me.
Yeah, and of course they came through with it as well because Hemel won the league with 102 points. But what was it like playing with Ben Mackey? Because obviously he got 43 goals that season, which is just a crazy amount. But as a goalkeeper, how good is it to know that if you do your job in defence, you've got someone like Mackey up top who can do his job in attack?
Sensational, mate. It's good. It's all good us doing our job, but like you say, it's priceless having a striker that when you know the ball's going to land at his feet, it's going to go in the back of the net.
Yeah.
And like I say, I don't. Obviously he did, but you actually question whether the guy was actually going to miss or not at any point. But he was some player, just clinical. That's the only way I can describe him. And he knew there was only going to be one outcome as well. And I think he was a massive factor. I mean, that whole team we had were absolutely fantastic. We were brilliant as a whole unit. The camaraderie, the togetherness was different class. But yeah, knowing that when he got the ball in and around the box, you knew there was only really going to be one outcome, and that would get you out of sticky situations in a game. and that would carry you through some games as well. So yeah, it was priceless to have someone like him up top being able to finish the way that he did.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot to thank for you because, of course, this season you finished as the Hemel Hempstead most clean sheets in the club's history, sort of goalkeeper, I guess. So, what's the secret?
What's the secret? Not in front of the ball. What the secret is? No. I think we had a really, really solid defensive unit that year as well. Everyone knew their jobs. Everyone done their job properly. And I just think when you build a defensive unit that knows their jobs and are solid, it all comes together and it's impossible to break down.
Yeah.
And I think from me behind the four, it was just everyone knew, everyone was on the same page. Everyone wanted to keep that, because we knew that clean sheets in us games, because we knew that we had to give someone like Lewis Toomey or Ben Mackey or whoever it was one opportunity, and we'd win the game. So as long as we knew we'd keep a clean sheet, we knew that at some point they would, up the top end, would come up with some sort of magic. So I think that really drove us on to know that, do our job and we will win this game, because at some point it can go right to the 92nd minute and one of them would pop up with something. So yeah, I think that was the biggest driving factor, the fact that, we knew that do our job and the rest will take care of itself, really.
Yeah, and I think one memorable game for you as well, of course, was that game against Bashley, which finished 10-0 to Hemel Hempstead. Bashley just had a really terrible season. They were about 30 points drift of safety. You nearly got 100 points more than them, I think, in the end. Sort of. So, but how crazy of a game was that then, to win 10-0, keep a clean sheet? Your strikers obviously managed to get 10 goals between them. How just mental of a game was that?
It's a weird one, because those games can be dangerous for a goalkeeper when you're standing there doing absolutely nothing. You have to really stay focused in that kind of a game, regardless of the scoreline, because you might only get one shot and you've got to deal with it, and you've been stood there for 88 minutes doing absolutely nothing, because I mean, that game we dominated ridiculously. I can't even remember. I don't think I touched the ball, if I remember rightly, very often at all. It might have just been a case of getting it, putting it down, playing out, and that was it. That was the extent of my job that day. But on the flip side of it, you stand there and you sympathise with the other goalkeeper, because as a goalkeeper you sit there if you never want to watch somebody concede 10 goals.
No.
I've been on the receiving end of that when I was a youth team player for Dons. We played Ipswich, and Ipswich decided to play their full strength first team in a reserve game. We ended up getting beaten 12-1.
Oh, God.
So being on the end of that, it's not nice. So you do sympathise with the opposition goalkeeper. Obviously, it's nice to have like a day off, really, and not have to make many saves. But also, like I say, that's a very dangerous game for a goalkeeper to be playing in, because you can quite easily switch off and concede the sloppiest goal, and then you're gutted because you've not kept a clean sheet, which you should have really. And it takes the shine off of a really good result. So yeah, there's a lot of emotions in a game like that where you feel for the other keeper, but also you've got to be so mentally switched on to be able to deal with potentially that one shot that could come in the 90th minute. Yeah,
and this obviously led to Hemel's promotion in the end, and they went into the National League South. You finished 9th, you were a season regular in that. How much of a step up was it, obviously, from the Southern Premier League? Because you played at the National League regularly, but you never really played at this league on like a sort of regular basis. So how much of a step up was it?
I think it was a massive wake-up call. The first couple of games, I didn't have the greatest games in the world, and I just think I went into it a bit complacent. Kind of sat there and thought, I've come off the back of a really good season, it will just carry on. But realistically, when you get promoted, you have to then go and work even harder to progress yourself and make yourself a better goalkeeper as well. Because you're coming up against better players, you're coming up against players that have come out of the Football League who have still got it, but they're dropping out of the Football League because their time's up in the Football League, so they're coming into the National League setup. And I think complacency is the biggest word for me. I think I got far too complacent and just didn't attack that season head on like I should have done. And I should have worked a lot harder, I feel, to keep developing myself in that season. That's one thing I say. If you ever get a step up in leagues or whatever, don't think, job done, I've done what I want to achieve. You need to then go again and work even harder to continue at that level and be a mainstay at that level as well, I guess.
Yeah. So what's prompted you to leave Hemel Hempstead to go on to join Oxford City?
I think me and Dean had a discussion at the end of that season. He had a lot of different ideas on what he wanted from his goalkeeper. You know, again, I wanted to just be playing week in, week out. He couldn't guarantee that for me that year because, you know, I didn't have the greatest season. I wasn't terrible, but from the season before, I didn't have the greatest of years. But we had a discussion. He wanted something different in his goalkeeper. So yeah, we come to the conclusion that I'd move on and go and play regular football, and that's when I landed at Oxford City.
So how did you find it then at Oxford City? Did you find it a bit different from Hemel Hempstead in terms of the performances? Because of course you went on to finish 12th that season.
Yeah, no, it was another strange season there because there was a small amount of issues that popped up financially there also. I can't be too sure of the ins and outs on what it was. I can't really remember. But the club was owned by an American at the time, and then there was a few issues over in America. So I don't really know what happened there because we started the season really, really well. We were right up until Christmas. We were well in amongst the playoffs, and then it just sort of all fell apart at the seams a little bit. And people's minds were elsewhere. Again, it goes back to the whole paying bills thing. And it just sort of, it really impacted, and obviously we ended up finishing where we finished, and it just the season just kind of fizzled out really, and for a player, any player will tell you that you don't ever want to get to that point in the season where you've got 8 games left and you can't go up, you can't go down, you've got nothing to play for. You know, you still keep the competitive edge because you want to win and do well, but you know, it's, you know, we need 3 points to jump into the playoffs or go top of the league or whatever. So yeah, it was a strange season there, just purely because of obviously the off-field issues that were hanging around. But again, you know, Justin Merritt, credit to him, stepped up and took on and financially got the club structure back together. And obviously the club's now in a much better place with what they're doing and sorting themselves out.
And then from Oxford City you went on to move to Kettering Town. How different was National League South to the National League North, of course, because this was a league that you'd never played in before?
Physically, massively. National League North was, I felt like there was just so much more physicality in it. And I don't know whether that's down to the fact that you've got a couple of ex-football league sides in there as well who are very big clubs, because only up until recently you had the likes of obviously Stockport County in that league and real big hitters. So yeah, physically very demanding, very, very demanding, and you always felt like you were in a proper game as well. You always come off after the game, even if you were playing bottom of the league, and you think, yeah, that was a tough game, like, they've really given us a run around there. And yeah, I'd say the physicality side of things in the National League North is a little bit more physical than the South, really. Yeah,
and you'd of course been at part-time clubs, with the likes of Kettering, Leamington, Hemel Hempstead. So obviously, when you moved to the National League North club, because I understand with part-time clubs, usually the players have jobs as well as playing for the clubs. How much of a change was it? Did you have to because I'm not too sure on geography and where Brackley is compared to Oxford, but did you have to change locations or anything like that, or find a new job?
No, because Brackley's only 15 minutes from my house, actually. Right. So it was ideal. It was only really the Tuesday night and the Saturdays where if you were away to, I don't know, something like Stalybridge or Boston, where obviously you're travelling quite a distance, or Darlington or whatever. But 9 times out of 10 they were on a Saturday, so it didn't really impact it too much. And being self-employed with my own coaching, it allows you to dictate your own hours as well, which is obviously, I think you have to be flexible whilst playing, obviously, National League or part-time football, really. So no, it really changed an awful lot for me, because obviously with Brackley being so local to me, it was an ideal move and a no-brainer, really.
Yeah, and one team that got promoted from that league was AFC Fylde. They had Danny Ropetop, who I believe that season got 47 goals he got that season. So as a goalkeeper, how difficult of a striker was he to come up against?
Never, honestly, the geezer's massive. He's physically so strong, and I've never seen someone be able to strike a ball so hard. with very little sort of effort. I mean, the manager used to say to us that, you know, we'll just shoot from anywhere and it will be coming at you quick. And, you know, you take these things on board, but you never really think that it'll be as bad as what they say. But I remember, you know, he hit one shot, and I'll tell you, it literally, I don't even think he took a step, he just like swung his leg. And it was just, the ball was moving all over the place, you know, and it's really tough to come up against a striker that's, you know, good with the ball at his feet, but also he's got that aerial presence as well. You know, he's got what you ideally want in a striker. Great finisher of the ball and physically very, very good in the air. So, you know, it's never easy for a goalkeeper playing against somebody who's that physical and able to jump and really put so much pressure on you on corners and stuff like that. And then obviously you've got his threat with the ball at his feet also.
Yeah, and obviously you're playing Bradford as well this weekend. So we'll get on to Oldham in a bit, but how much are you sort of looking forward to coming against the player who you played against in the National League North?
Yeah, it's going to be good. It's going to be good. You know, it's always nice to play against people who you've come up against previously. You know, obviously you've got to be wary of him and his presence because, you know, you have to be, and you have to make sure you're taking care of players like that. Otherwise they hurt you, and they hurt you badly, you know. I know I'll do my studying on him this week, and I'm just looking into other things as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it'll be good to come up against somebody who's also come from sort of that non-league journey as well, which is good.
We will go back to the non-league. I don't know why I skipped ahead there, but with obviously Brackley, the club did just miss out on the playoffs. How disappointing was that for you personally? Because obviously you wanted to get back up to the National League. For the club to just miss out in the playoffs, sort of, I think they finished in 8th or 7th. So how disappointing was that for you?
It's never nice missing out, because I think by the end of the season, after the last game of the season, I think we were only 1 point outside of the playoffs as well, if I remember rightly. I think we started the season so well. We had a really, really good FA Cup and FA Trophy run. And I think, for me, I'll always say, I think those things sometimes distract you as a lower league club. You obviously want to do really well and get the big ties against the big sides. I do feel like we ended up with far too many games in hand, and then we just couldn't get the points on the board. Yeah. And I think it hurt us, to be honest. There's always that saying of you'd rather have the points on the board, and I honestly believe that is the price. I think you'd rather have the points there than the games in hand, and I'll always stick to that. Because there's always a little bit of added pressure as well. Because you're always going, yeah, well, if we win these 2 games in hand, we can then go jump into the playoffs. But yeah, for me, I think it was great, because that year we had a really, really solid FA Cup. I think we beat Gillingham at home, and obviously played Blackpool away, and were very unlucky in that game as well. And then just missed out on, I think it was the semi-finals against York away. I think being able to get into the semi-finals of the trophy. So I think that kind of took our focus off the league, but I think just the sheer weight of games that we had, I don't think we can keep up.
And then the move back to Hemel Hempstead came about, but how did it come about in that sense? Was it just through mutual contacts, or? Yeah,
you know, me and Dean spoke. I'd come away from Hemel, I'd developed more as a goalkeeper, I'd matured more as a goalkeeper, and just felt like I could have, you know, I could really assist them in what they wanted to do, which was again pushing for promotion. So yeah, and obviously getting the chance to work with Dean again, it was a no-brainer really, because the guy never loses his passion for football, and always wants to continue to do well. So, you know, that was a no-brainer for me, and yeah, it just kind of, that's how that come around, just through conversations and me being obviously more of a mature keeper, and then obviously, you know, again it comes down to, you know, what managers want from their sides, and obviously again, I think the travelling in the Conference North for me at the time was tough, because obviously trying to run your own business and doing all that travel as well, I think it just sort of was easier for me to go back to the south and focus on trying to build my business whilst playing part-time football.
And how different was Hemel Hempstead then? Because Dean Brennan and Stuart May had obviously still there. I'd imagine a lot of the squad was sort of similar. So how different was it for you in the second time round?
It wasn't massively different. The passion was still the same. The goals were still the same to get promotion. Different squad. Obviously, more mature squad with players who have been around a little bit more in non-league, who have played obviously Conference South level more regularly. So it was a different setup in that sense. But obviously, the non-negotiables hadn't changed at all.
And in that first season as well, you finished in 5th place in the playoffs, so this time you did make it. But unfortunately, lost out in the playoff semi-finals, I believe, to Braintree Town. Am I right in thinking that it came through penalties?
Yeah. We lost on penalties. There's no worse way to lose a game, really.
No.
The game was good. Both teams were really going at it, but no one could get a breakthrough. And then it just comes down to penalties, and that's literally a flip of the coin for me. Their penalty takers were clinical and found the top corners and found the net. Obviously ours not so much. But it's things that are not through players not wanting to do well. It's just one of them things.
Yeah, and whilst sorry, God, you can't. So I thought you finished then.
Say that again, mate.
Nothing. You just can't. So I thought you finished, but I don't think you had done.
I was just saying, you sort of, when it comes to penalties, literally it's a gap, and you've no idea what's going to happen, really. But like I say, their penalty takers were clinical, and just on the day ours weren't, and it cost us, really.
Yeah. And in the next season then, at Hemel Hempstead, unfortunately things just kind of fell off a bit. You finished in 16th place. Brennan and Maynard eventually ended up leaving, I believe, for Billericay. But when those two managers left, how much of an effect did that have on you? Because obviously you spent so much time with them. There's a new manager coming in. He's got new ideas. How much did that change you as a person, do you think?
I don't think it changed me so much. I think you have to adapt, because you're obviously in football. You 1 minute you're playing under one manager, next minute he's gone, and you're playing a completely different style of football.
Yeah.
So you just have to adapt the way you play, really. And managers come in with different non-negotiables. Managers, have different ideas on what they want. So, I think you have to be able to be adaptable being a player, because you just don't know what's around the corner. You don't know what styles. And you have to adapt in the game anyway. But no, I think it changed because Joe come in with his own ideas, done things differently. People recruit different players on what they feel they want and what's best in the club. I think it was just that kind of thing about having to just try and adapt to a different style of play and get used to it quite quickly.
You mentioned sort of recruitment there as well. At the end of that season, Sammy Moore obviously came in from Concord Rangers, and decided he wanted to change things up. So a lot of the first team squad left. And you left by mutual consent. Was that just due to Sammy Moore wanting the new sort of squad?
It was one of them. There was constant dialogue between myself, Sammy, and the chairman. Managers have, I guess, their own ideas on what they want at that time, whether it's right or wrong. Some players won't ever agree with decisions. Obviously, of course, you won't agree if you're getting released or a manager wants a different player in, because you always think and you always have to believe in yourself. You're the best that's around. Sammy come in. Sammy wanted his own people. Sammy wanted to do his own stuff, and wanted his own players. So you can't begrudge a manager of that coming in and wanting to bring in his own players. It's what they, again, it goes back to what they want. And football's a cruel world, unfortunately. It's one of them things that a new manager can come in and you're not his kind of player. And that's just how it is. Managers bring in players that suit their style of play and what they want to do. So, that was why I took the decision to leave, and obviously, that's where that was, really.
And then it kind of worked out for the best, I guess, because once you departed Hemel Hempstead, you got your move to MK Dons, but how did the move come about then? Because obviously you don't really usually see goalkeepers jump up from the National League South to League One.
So, I was during, because obviously my business is coaching, that was always evening work. Basically, I've been training with Milton Keynes for years. a Friday with the goalkeeper coach at the time, Paul Hill, who's obviously helped me out a lot through my career. He was there. I was always in and out training with them, just going in, helping them out. They were helping me out stay fit and sharp, because obviously you only train twice a week in the National League. So I took it upon myself to try and get some extra training, and I've been training there for years and years and years. And obviously with the link of me in the academy, being an academy graduate from there as well, it allowed me to be able to go and train, and that continued the whole way through. Obviously it continued under different managers, and obviously when the new manager came in, it continued as well. And just kind of, it was one day after training, the goalkeeper coach said to me, look, you know, how do you feel about coming and joining our unit and being part of us? We like what we see in you. You're a very good goalkeeper. You're experienced. You know, we want you as part of our team. And you know, that's an opportunity you're never going to turn down, especially when it's on your doorstep. And you're getting offered that opportunity. So yeah, it just kind of come about me obviously being in and around the place, knowing the place. And then Mel Gwynett, the goalkeeper coach, giving me the opportunity to go and do that, really.
Yeah, and what was it like then, really, at MK Dons? Because I know obviously you had your loan spells at Hampton, Richmond and Chelmsford City, but I imagine MK Dons have some really, nice training facilities. Obviously they've got an incredible stadium. How much of a step up in terms of facilities and being able to train more was it from Hemel Hempstead to MK Dons?
Being able to train every day is priceless. You know, you get to work on things you need to work on. You can focus on all aspects of your game and not rush in to try and cram everything into a small space of time. But it gives you the ability to really focus and develop yourself more. And obviously you've got ridiculously good players around you as well, who are demanding the best from you. So, you know, it keeps you on your toes constantly, and you've got to be at it 24/7. You can't have an off day, otherwise you're going to get punished for it. And you know, you have to be at it 24/7. So it is good because it changes your mindset as well. That you've got to really continue to drive and work day in, day out. It's not just an easy jolly, I'm going in, kicking the football around. You've got to go in and be at it and really put in the work in.
Yeah, and obviously when you went in there originally, Paul Tisdale was manager, but then Russell Martin came and took over him. I'm not too sure how much interaction you've had with Russell Martin, but how different is he compared to, obviously, Tisdale, who first signed you?
Again, it just goes back to different styles of play. You know, he's had his play. I really enjoyed working under him. You know, he was thorough with what he wanted. He was in detail with what he wanted. And then Russ, coming from obviously the background he's come from of Premier League, international football, you know, he really, really demands it from you. And he wants you at it constantly, you know, and it's really, really refreshing to have a manager that, you know, is just driving you on 24/7, constantly in dialogue with you, you know, helping you improve. And, you know, he's improved my game plenty of dozen. Like, he's literally changed me, you know, made me see things in a completely different light. You know, he focuses on the mental side of the game and making sure you're mentally prepared as well. You know, and his style of play as well, you know, completely playing football is fantastic. It's lovely, and it's a lovely, lovely style of play to play. You know, and just the way he manages you and develops you and really focuses on everyone and helping everyone. You know, him, Luke Williams and Dean Thornton as a unit, they just, you know, they really focus on developing you and helping you as a player as well.
Yeah, and in a COVID-infested season, of course, you played for some National League South clubs, which would eventually get cancelled. But as obviously you were in your goalkeeping business, how did you manage to stay fit throughout COVID? Was it a case of you just keeping your business going and that helped you stay fit, or were you still going out and training?
We got sent training plans by the club. I was out biking daily. I've got weights at home that I was using. You know, I was out running, biking, just using the time to, you know, stay fit and just really, you know, it was a chance to really develop yourself again. You know, you could either have gone one way or another. You could have gone, well, it's COVID, I'm just going to sit and let my fitness go out the window, or you can sit there and go, right, well, I've not been able to work on this season, so I'm going to really make sure I develop myself strength-wise develop on the weaknesses in your body, and that really, I was running, I was biking miles, and it really helped you focus and keep driven. But the club obviously supplied all the training programs as well. So yeah, everyone managed to stay fit, and the manager provided calls with psychologists, like group calls with the boys, just to make sure the lads are mentally doing okay as well.
Yeah.
And it was fantastic. Sorry, that's the wrong word to think, because in the middle of a pandemic, nothing's fantastic. And obviously a lot of people lost their lives, but it was the way that they dealt with it and helped you out was second to none.
Yeah, and then eventually we did get to the season right now where, of course, you made your professional debut for MK Dons. How surreal of an experience was that?
You know what? It felt like it. You can't put it into words, because you always wait for that point as a kid. You sit there and think, oh yes, I can't wait to play. But then when it comes, it's just like, wow, it's actually happening. Like, and it's amazing. It's amazing to step out on that pitch with a group of lads that you work week in, week out with, and to see it all come together. And yeah, it's priceless to be able to play for a club, obviously where you live as well. That's just an added bonus, I guess. We'll finally get to Oldham now. Then, how did this emergency loan come about? Because I know Ian Lawley got injured for Oldham, but how did you sort of find out about it? Did you have like an agent who just let you know? Did MK Dons tell you? So the manager rang me, and he said, obviously, he's got this opportunity of an emergency loan. Are you interested? And obviously, absolutely. Obviously, your main aim is to play football all season, and that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to play football and get games, because that's what you work so hard for week in, week out, is that Saturday or Tuesday game. So it was a no-brainer for me, and the club giving me the opportunity to be able to come out on loan and make my Football League debut as well. It's a no-brainer for me, and it's a fantastic club to be at.
Yeah, and with Keith Curl only just coming into the club as well, I feel like, was he the one who brought you in, or was it Harry Kuehl?
No, it was Keith Curl who obviously contacted Russ, and they obviously had their conversation, sorted all that out. So yeah, that was through him.
What's Curl like then? Because obviously Oldham fans will want to know what the new manager sort of is like in the change room, for example.
It's brilliant. He installs confidence in the boys. Again, he's got his style of play that he wants us to play. And he's a hard-working manager who wants the best from his players. Demands again, like all managers do, they demand. And he's obviously just getting to grips with the players, as myself. But yeah, he's a great guy to work for, and obviously I've really enjoyed it so far. And he's a hard-working manager, puts so much detail in on the training field. But most of all, he just tries to really installs that confidence in the boys to get them motivated to go out and play well.
Yeah, definitely. And sort of the last sort of question from me then, because obviously Oldham, they're an EFL club. MK Dons are an EFL club, you only play for them in the cup. So do you feel as if eventually when your emergency loan finishes, everything finishes like that, you feel like you could possibly make the step up to Football League, football I guess at the end of the day, on more of a permanent basis?
Yeah, definitely. You've got to believe in yourself and your own ability, I've never doubted that I couldn't ever play Football League level at all, and I think just obviously building my way into games at the minute and obviously getting match fit, I feel like I'm going to progress even more and more with every game that goes by. Grateful for the opportunity that I have, because this is a dream of many people to be able to do what I'm doing. But yeah, no, without a shadow of a doubt, I feel like I can definitely play this level regularly. And it's just fantastic to be able to do it on a day-to-day basis,
Yeah, definitely. And I think that is going to bring an end to this week's episode of the Benchwarmers Podcast. So, as usual, I'd like for my guest this week, Laurie Walker. Laurie, thank you for joining me.
No, thanks for having me.
I'd say best of luck for the weekend, but I'm a Bradford fan, so probably not. Maybe have an off weekend on Saturday if that's all right.
Yeah, mate, no worries at all, mate. No worries at all.